Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there and having a fantastic start to your day and weekend. Got you some updated information about what's going to happen weather-wise for your Saturday as a storm system is coming together across the Rockies. And we'll speak on that in great detail, actually go into your Christmas Eve tomorrow also. We do have rain falling across the Ohio Valley, southern Ontario, the Great Lakes region, starting to kind of ooze into the interior sections of the Northeast. We will speak in detail on that also. And then stay tuned. There will be a segment after today's forecast speaking on the weather leading up to Christmas Day, which is here in the next couple days, and then after Christmas Day. A couple days after Christmas, there could be a big winter storm across the middle of the country. So we need to speak on that as the GFS and the Euro are starting to meet together for a solution now. So our confidence is increasing that something is going to happen across the middle of the country, really talking about the upper Midwest, the kind of the northern plains region. So we'll speak on that. And then a large section of this video is going to give you guys updated information on this pattern change. Folks, confidence continues to do nothing but increase that this is happening. We are now in a kind of a time frame as far as how close it is that we can now really speak on this in kind of a forecast way, if that makes any sense. So this is looking likely that it's going to happen. The Climate Prediction Center is indicating it also. The professionals are starting to talk about it. This isn't just way on out there anymore. But now that we know this pattern change is coming, we need to get more and more detailed on it. And then is there any kind of storm system like snow further south, winter weather for the eastern U.S.? What are we seeing? We're going to show you all this information. So utilize those timestamps, guys. If you don't really care about the storm system around Christmas time or what's going to happen today, timestamps are there. They normally kind of upload to the video about 5 minutes after it drops. So take advantage of those guys for sure. They'll help you out. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So you see the rain across areas of the Ohio Valley, southern Ontario, a little bit of snow. I do think this could start off as a little snow in the interior sections of the Northeast. We'll speak on that here in a second. A little bit of moisture down here to the south, not a lot, but there will be a lot here in the coming days, and we will speak on that too, as it's looking like a rainy Christmas for a lot of areas of the country, But you see this upper level low moisture right here we've been speaking on over the last few videos. It's here on your screen. Rain in the lower elevations of like New Mexico, Arizona, but snow is beginning to fall in these higher elevations of Colorado and New Mexico. A little bit of snow in eastern Idaho. And here comes this other piece of energy, and they will try to meet somewhere into here. So we're going to give you some updated information about how much snow you could see. But really, the interest is beginning to shift, like I said, till after Christmas as another low will develop, and there could be some heavy snow that falls in areas of Nebraska, South Dakota, maybe Iowa. So we will speak on that here in a second. But let's move forward here. The Storm Prediction Center, there is a marginal risk of severe weather as of right now. This could uptrend, but as of me talking about this around 10 after 7 a.m. Eastern time, there is just a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5, from Amarillo all the way down to Fort Stockton into southwest Texas. So there is a risk for some severe weather today, but not a big risk, as a line of storms will develop and get going through this area, and could pack a punch for certain areas. But I don't think the ingredients are really there for a significant severe weather event at all. But the chance for flash flooding is there. This thing does include the Dallas-Fort Worth area, extends all the way into central Texas, includes another little section down here of Houston and just the coastline of Texas. That means there's a 15% risk in the yellow area of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in any given location. So, there could be a little bit of flooding today in the poor drainage region. So be aware of this, where storms kind of move over the same areas. It is possible today. Check out all this fog in the country today. And the gray, I know it's obviously bang right there on your screen. That's dense fog advisories. There's a lot of fog out there. And this typically happens when you have a ridge in place. Let me know how thick the fog is out there in your neck of the woods. But man, the grays are really showing up here. But winter weather advisory is already up for several counties in southern South Dakota and western and kind of central and west central areas of Nebraska. Winter storm watches are up. We have to see if these upgrade to warnings or advisories. For sections of eastern Colorado, we got winter weather advisories in the Rockies, winter storm warnings in areas of the Rockies also, in New Mexico, even Arizona and Colorado. But there's a big question mark still in this area right in here on how much snow you get. But you are already getting those winter weather alerts where winter weather will begin to fall probably later in the time period today. So let's talk about the southeast first, and then we'll work our way into the central portion of the country. The southeast, the moisture is, you're going to be able to kind of feel the warm air moving into the southeast today. Today will be by far the warmest day compared to the last 5 or 6 days. Warm air will begin to move in. You'll even feel a little bit more moisture in the atmosphere. And as we get into this afternoon, you start to get some thunderstorms here in Texas. We'll talk about this here in a second, but a little bit of moisture showing up here in Kentucky, Tennessee, southern sections of Ohio, Indiana, even Illinois. We keep this going a little bit further into the overnight hours. A little bit of downpour activity off the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, but here's a lot of rain starting to move into Louisiana, and then we're waking up for tomorrow morning, our Christmas Eve morning, and the rainy period is beginning across Louisiana. It's raining kind of, I would say, more of a light and maybe at times moderate rain across areas of Louisiana. So not a ton of rain at first, but I do think a lot of rain will begin to fall as we get deeper into Christmas Eve and then Christmas Day across these areas. But waking up tomorrow morning to some rain in Louisiana, especially the southern half, and some rain showers moving into Arkansas. Still dealing with some rain showers up here near Louisville, Lexington, and then just sections of like Cincinnati, some light rain showing up here in Kentucky, areas of southern Indiana and Ohio. A little bit of shower activity off the coast of Georgia still. But yeah, that's what's going to happen between today and overnight. And then we look at the northeast. Moisture is making its way in. We take it all the way till about 1 p.m. We got showers moving across Ohio, some showers moving across Kentucky. We already spoke on that. And then we got some rain starting to move into western PA. Rain moving into the southern tier and Finger Lakes region of New York just after lunchtime. But as this moisture begins to enter these higher elevations of the Catskills, the Adirondacks this afternoon, this could fall in the form of some light snow. Could add up to maybe a half an inch at most. Maybe somebody sneaks in an inch of snow. But this moves in and just not a lot of cold air in place. Not a lot of moisture in place with this. And we start to get to this evening. Some festive snow kind of the day before Christmas Eve could be flying around across southern Vermont, areas of New York. This could kind of make its way into areas of Connecticut. Maybe some light snow if you're staying up late tonight, later this evening, 10, 11 p.m. Some light snow could make its way into this section right in here. This is around midnight tonight. Some light, maybe at times moderate snow falling across areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, and even getting into Massachusetts. A little bit of light snow, but this is mostly rain back here in the western sections of New York. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning. Still a little bit of snow flying around for your morning of your Christmas Eve in the Adirondacks if you're up in that region. Some scattered about showers kind of further west. Then some shower activity possible around the New York City area, southern New England region. How much snow could fall between now and tomorrow afternoon? Just dusting amounts, a few tenths of an inch. Somebody could sneak in an inch of snow in these higher elevations of New York. Not a big deal at all. South Central U.S., this is when things start to get more active. Okay, we start to get into about midday. This is when some showers start to show up in western Texas. Some heavier showers, maybe some thunderstorms here and eastern sections of New Mexico. There's that low right here. And then a line of storms will try to develop later this evening. I'm talking about 5, 6 p.m. All of western Texas could get a line of thunderstorms, and that's just where you have that marginal risk. So this is the warmer side of the system. At the same time, you have a moist feed coming up into the southeastern sections of Texas. So we got some thunderstorms around the Houston area, points north and northwest and west here. So we have a moist flow starting to move into Texas. And here's a little bit better look at southern Texas. Not a whole lot of moisture down here near Brownsville and extreme southern Texas. But as we're making our way into later this evening, look at this line of storms all the way up from southern areas of Kansas all the way down to the Mexico-Texas border. These are kind of making its way through Texas. I mean, this is around midnight, 1 a.m. These are making their way through Oklahoma and the state of Texas. And I would say the Dallas-Fort Worth area sees it kind of right around 4 to 5, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And this is still moving in. This will start to weaken, but it will still be maintaining some strength down here tomorrow morning for eastern Texas as a thin line of storms makes its way through. But there's not a lot of ingredients for severe weather. So just some gusty winds, maybe some small hail, and some heavy rain. But if you kind of back this up here, Here's that low developing with the snow on the colder side, and here comes the snow. This is, I mean, look at this. This is an Eastern time, so back this up an hour or two. It's around midnight to 1 a.m. here in Colorado. You start to see some heavier snow banding start to form. Remember I talked about that in yesterday morning's video about some snow bands that they're questioning from the National Weather Service here in Colorado. And, the snow could really begin to fall as a low is right here on the Colorado-Kansas border. And this snow could be very heavy in the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. And it could pile up fast. So we got to watch out for this banding of snow here in eastern Colorado. I think Denver could pick up maybe a dusting to a couple inches of snow at most. But there's a big question mark on that. And we're waking up tomorrow morning. And then check it out. The snow's falling in northeast areas of Colorado. We'll talk more on Nebraska here in a second. And what's going on? And we keep this going, and snow's just still kind of falling in areas of northeast Colorado. And then we start to get a little bit of back-end energy even in central areas of Kansas and west central areas of Kansas tomorrow evening. So could have some flurries flying around. A little bit of light snow flying around right as you're tucking the kids in for bed here in Kansas. That'll be pretty cool. Always really cool. So that's getting into tomorrow also. But rainfall between now and tomorrow morning. I mean, a good bit of rain is possible along the coastal sections of Texas. I mean, Houston could get an inch and a quarter of rain today, and just anywhere around kind of the central coastline of, I hope I didn't say Florida, of Texas. Sometimes, you guys, if you've been around long enough, sometimes I like to mix Texas and Florida up. I do know the difference. I don't know, it just happens. But of Texas, if you live down here in southeast Texas, you are going to get a good bit of rain today. But, I mean, we make it all the way out into Christmas morning. Look how much rain starts to show up here in central and eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, all of eastern Texas, eastern areas of Kansas, western areas of Missouri. Even the rain starting to creep up in Iowa. So good bit of rain coming. Not sure what that is, but that's cool. That's probably where I tried to pull up a tab and forgot that I had it pulled up. But snowfall between now and tomorrow morning. Rockies going to pick up several inches of snow, so if you're, in the Rockies in Colorado for Christmas time, you're certainly going to see some snow flying around, making it look like Christmas time. But if you notice, the extension of snow begins to show up around here later tonight into tomorrow morning. And if we go all the way out to Monday morning, around the Denver area, I would say if you're a little bit south of town, more snow is possible. But they're going for about an inch or two of snow in around Denver. I think that's a good forecast, but this is a wild card area. You guys could get more in eastern and really northeastern Colorado, but just going for a couple to a few inches of snow as of right at this moment. But this could increase. I would stay tuned to changing forecast if you live kind of in the high plains of eastern Colorado. This could certainly change. As of now, this is how much they're going for. But if you look at let's look at the HRRR model for this region. Look at that. HRRR model going all in on very heavy snow in eastern and northeastern Colorado, going for more of the 6 to 12 inches of snow. And let's actually move this. So this was it the wrong thing, but it's probably going to show something similar. Come on, there we go. Yeah, see, about the same thing. So it's going for several more inches of snow than what the National Weather Service is showing here in northeast Colorado and eastern Colorado. So something we need to watch out for sure. So up here in the north central U.S., a quiet start to your day. As we get into this afternoon, an area of showers could make its way through Nebraska, starting to move into South Dakota. Some bursts of heavy rain is possible. And then we start to get into the overnight hours. Just good old rain here in Nebraska for the most part, starting to make its way into eastern South Dakota. All the way up through Minnesota, this is rain. Waking up for your Christmas Eve. Pretty wild stuff. But as we are getting into tomorrow morning, this rain switches to snow in about the entire western half of Nebraska. We've already spoke on northeast Colorado. You start to see some snow up here in South Dakota, central to kind of southwest South Dakota. And then we start to get deeper into tomorrow, and then we start to see some of that rain switch to snow. So we could have some Christmas Eve snow, even though temperatures are well above average. I've said it many times before. Your temperature's going to be well above average up here in this portion of the country, and it's still cold enough for snow. And that's the case up here. Snow falling in northwest Minnesota, extreme southeast South Dakota, the heart of South Dakota getting snow, western Nebraska getting snow. This is just rain in eastern sections of Iowa, rain falling in kind of the warmer section of southwest Minnesota, and we continue to move this forward here. This is rain falling for your Christmas Eve evening in Minneapolis, and heavy snow potential up here in northern sections of Minnesota, and just some back end snow. And then after this, we get after Christmas, something gets cranked up. Can't speak. Something gets going down here. So guys, I will do a video. I want to mention I will do a video this evening, and I'll start to mention some towns and communities in this area. I know a lot of times I just say eastern areas of this state, western areas of that state, but man, it is very hard to mention every single town and city when you're kind of spitting out a bunch of information very fast. But a little bit closer look at the northern plains, and this will include Colorado. Look at the snow kind of moving through the state of Montana. A little bit later this afternoon, we got some light to moderate snow moving through central Montana. This eventually makes its way into eastern Montana. Snow scattered about in Wyoming later this evening. And then here comes the heavy snow showing up in northeast Colorado. And just a closer look at this. We stop it here. We're waking up tomorrow morning, and we got a decent little snow event ongoing in western Nebraska, and then areas of South Dakota, kind of central South Dakota, where an area right in here could get some really heavy snow. It's still snowing pretty heavily in northeast Colorado, and this could amplify throughout tomorrow. Could definitely be a festive day in the northern plains with snow flying around and it being Christmas Eve. But snowfall between now and the next 24 hours. I'm sorry, this is snowfall between now and Christmas Day. The National Weather Service just going for a few inches of snow. Somebody could get up to 5 inches of snow here in South Dakota, and then northern sections of Nebraska. I think more snow than this could fall in this section right here of Nebraska. But even some snow starting to show up here in eastern Nebraska as a system starts to get cranked up here. But like I've already mentioned, northeast Colorado, and just some scattered snowfall accumulations. They're not going for really any right here in Colorado. Man, I am getting my states mixed up this morning. Here in Montana, but I definitely think you could get some snowfall in this section right here in Montana. And of course, the higher elevations of Wyoming are favored with this event. But if you keep going, this is what we're going to talk about here in a second. Look how the snow starts to really add up in these areas right into here. So let's move to the western U.S. It's going to be much quieter today. We've already pretty much talked about all this. If you're in Utah, this morning you might be dealing with a little bit of snow flying around in areas of Utah. Let me know if you're seeing the snow in Salt Lake City. I would love to know. But most of this energy begins to shift into New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana as we get later into this evening. And then you're left with a pretty calm afternoon, evening for most of the western U.S. There is another system trying to enter the picture as we're waking up for your Christmas Eve morning. But we'll speak on that here in the coming videos. So temperatures today, man, you're starting to warm up in the deep south, 60s, 70s, northeast. You're still cold, 20s for highs. You're just really hanging on to that really chilly air up here in the northeast, 20s, 30s, and 40s, depending on where your location is. Well above average up here for the upper Midwest, just 40s. I mean, you're getting all the way up into the 50s ahead of snow up into Nebraska. Look, you're getting all the way into the 50s and upper 40s in northeast Colorado today, where it'll be snowing later on this evening most likely. So certainly some colder air will be moving in. The Rockies will be definitely colder today in the northern Rockies, depending on your elevation. Chillier conditions in Montana, and pretty decent conditions down here, but still you're kind of back to below average temperatures in the southwest. But enjoy your weather out there. It'll be much calmer today compared to the last few days, that's for sure. So let's give you an update on kind of Christmas Day onward. Okay, so this is waking up Christmas morning. So we're moving on. We're kind of getting to the future now. Okay, this is moving on to Christmas morning. So we'll stop it right here. It's the morning of the 25th. This coming Monday, 2 days from now. All right, look at all this rain for Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. This is just rain. But look as this low tries to form here. Low tries to form here, kind of gets blocked into place, and it actually backtracks. So we're getting into the afternoon of Christmas. And look at this snow that begins to fall in Omaha, extreme western sections of Iowa. You start to see snow and kind of the southeast portions of South Dakota. Ice potential for areas of Minnesota and Iowa. And you keep this going, guys, and this turns into a pretty hefty snow event for Nebraska, for South Dakota, and the snow is getting wrapped all the way back down into northern Kansas. And this could be a pretty hefty event to crank up Christmas Day for these areas of the country. All right, we're going to get a little bit more kind of zoomed into these regions in this evening's video. But man, this could be a big event. And here it comes. We'll look at it again, and just a big snow potential for Nebraska and South Dakota. All right, and then this kind of fizzles out, and then the energy kind of, like I said, fizzles out and kind of shifts southeast. But what about the GFS? Remember, the GFS did not like this idea. Now it does. Here it comes. Christmas morning, just rain for, Minneapolis, all the way into northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, Missouri, Illinois, down here, down the Mississippi Valley. But look at the snow starting to fall. And eastern sections of Nebraska, it's not as cold initially as the Euro. So, Omaha, you would have mixing, but Lincoln, it's snowing for your afternoon. So, you might not get the snow for Christmas Eve, but, as you're wrapping up your Christmas Day activities or starting them, it could start snowing pretty heavily in western and maybe central Nebraska and areas of South Dakota. So you could have a Christmas Day snowstorm for these areas and just a flat-out winter storm. I would expect to start to see winter storm watches up here in the next 24 hours in these areas because models are really starting to come together to this. So if you live in eastern Nebraska, eastern South Dakota, and even areas of kind of southwest Minnesota, and then western areas of Iowa. If I said eastern areas of Iowa earlier, I do apologize. When you're saying eastern and western areas of everything, you tend to get something mixed up eventually. But you guys know what I mean. There's that low. It's kind of just a weird developing storm, and you keep this going, and it actually shifts this a little bit further north than the Euro does, and starts to throw some snow all the way up into North Dakota also. But the interesting thing with this, is as we're getting into the day after Christmas, Boxing Day, some snow begins to wrap around this low as this really becomes kind of just a cold low. Start to see snow all the way down here into Kansas City and northwest Missouri. So this is a really interesting event that's really starting to unfold. And, you look at the National Weather Service. This is the blend of all models. I do apologize. Through the entire duration of both of these systems. And it really wants to hit South Dakota pretty good between the first system coming up now and then the system that gets going just after Christmas. Well, Christmas Day and after. But it wants to give pretty much the entire state of Nebraska accumulating snow between both systems. So if you kind of look at how this unfolds, this is the first system coming up right here. All right, and then here comes the second system. The bigger system, I think. So this is the blend of all models right now. Okay. What about the National Weather Service? What are they going for? This only goes out. This only takes us out to Tuesday morning. So it's still snowing in some of these areas, but you're starting to see some snow creeping up into western Iowa, western areas of Minnesota. But it really wants to hit. It really likes South Dakota the most. But some freezing rain is starting to creep into this also, guys. So we're starting to get a tenth to 2/10 of an inch of ice starting to show up in northern Minnesota, areas of the Dakotas, and just the upper Midwest in general. So ice is starting to become a concern up here too. So we need to watch out for this, but just comparing some model guidance here, and the Euro goes crazy with this, but I don't know if that's believable. Sometimes these operational models kind of just go overboard with the snow, but look at the latest, literally the latest 06Z Euro that just came out, and it hammers South Dakota and areas of Minnesota with heavy snow, but it kind of misses the Omaha region. So something we need to watch. And if we look at the latest GFS for this region, it's a little bit further east. But man, big time winter storm potential. Christmas Day into the day after, and maybe even getting into the 27th too for this region. We'll get more detailed on this, even though that was a pretty darn detailed here in this evening's video. We'll try to mention some towns, some cities, and kind of pull up some discussions from the National Weather Service for these regions as we get into this evening's video. But getting into Christmas Day for areas further east, we're starting off Christmas Eve evening, so the evening of tomorrow. Rain is beginning to enter the picture for the middle portion of the country. This is spreading east overnight, we're waking up Christmas morning to just good old steady rain. And Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, getting into Illinois, and certainly into Missouri as the low is moving right over. There's a chance for some thunderstorms in these regions, but I don't expect any kind of severe weather event from this as of now. But we're starting to get into the afternoon of Christmas Day. Rain is overspreading the Ohio Valley areas of the Midwest, the Southeast, Georgia, starting to take over the southern Appalachian Mountains, the Carolinas. And then we're starting to get into overnight Christmas into the morning of the 26th. Light to at times moderate rain continues to pretty much impact everybody in the Southeast. You got light rain moving into the Northeast and could become amplified as another low might try to develop. And we're definitely going to have a rainy day or two after Christmas for the Northeast for sure. And especially if another low tries to develop. And then what happens after this system, that's what everybody's trying to figure out. As that winter storm kind of wraps up that we just spoke on around Christmas Day and after, cold air from it and the rest of the energy will kind of pivot back behind. And then we got to watch this as a lot of cold air finally crashes down. So how much rain could fall from this? Well, we'll start it off Christmas morning and look how the rain starts to accumulate more and more further east as we get deeper into Christmas Day. We get into the day after Christmas and get into the 27th. So this is between now and the morning of the 29th. A lot of rain coming. I mean, it really wants to hit the western areas, the Carolinas and North Georgia pretty good. But definitely just some steady rains are on the way for Christmas Day and after for the entire eastern U.S. The Great Lakes region might not get as much as everybody else, but even you guys will see rain. So deep breath. Let's talk about this pattern change, guys. So what you're going to see on the screen, and stick with me, guys. I know I don't want to try to predict what you guys are thinking, but I know if I didn't know a whole lot about, the deep stuff with the weather, I would want somebody just to probably just show me the blues and the greens on the map. Show me where a winter storm is going to hit my house 10 days from now, Mitch. I get it. Trust me, it's exciting to see. But the good news is I am going to show you this. I'm going to show you it in every single video I make. I'll show it to you again in this evening's video, and I'll show it to you in this video. But just remember, I'll say this a million times as we're kind of dissecting this pattern. This is not forecast stuff. So if you see a winter storm over your house on January 2nd, guys, I mean, it's the 23rd of December still. What is that, 9 days away? It's going to change. The theme that we're looking for here is we're seeing a lot of energy with cold air. So just follow me with that as we're making our way through this video. So this is starting the afternoon of Christmas. The lower pressure, that is a storm system. It's a trough of low pressure, and this is our big main storm system that's flying over the country. Now, pretty much everything on this side of the blue, that's where all your weather's going to be. And I would argue even further out than that. This is where all your weather's going to be. Now, you're going to have weather up here too, but just remember that as you see a big blue blob approaching, typically all the weather is in general on the eastern side of that big blue blob with an associated cold front with it. So the blues on your screen is the lower pressure. The reds, the oranges, that is the higher pressure. That's typically associated with calmer conditions, warmer than average temperatures. Okay, so the blue is coming in, and let's see if we can get this in motion again, and we're going. We're rocking and rolling. So there is probably our winter storm somewhere in this area getting going. It's already ongoing. And then this big blue blob sets up over the eastern U.S. And a trough, just think of that as a dip in the jet stream. A ridge is kind of a bulge in the jet stream, and this is really bulging all the way up into Canada. Nothing's changed up here. We're still dealing with ridge of high pressure up here into Canada. That's why you're well above average up in these areas. If you look over here, you're starting to see energy starting to get active out here in the Pacific, and this is beginning to dive down as our subtropical jet is starting to really adjust to engage and really get going here. But you see this blue line right here, this huge dip, that's our dip in the jet stream. So troughing, setting up over the eastern U.S., think of that as just an active weather. A lot of energy flying around this trough. Okay, and to keep this going, and this trough just sets up over the eastern U.S. as we round off 2023. So you got a lot of blue, lower heights, lower pressure over the eastern and central U.S. You got this ridge that's beginning to bulge really all the way up into Alaska. You like to see that if you want winter weather down here in the lower 48, the southern, basically the southern states, everybody down here. You really like to see that. And you keep on going, and this ridge continues to shift further west up into Alaska. We call this a positive PNA, but when the ridge gets all the way up into Alaska, blocking into the state of Alaska. We call that a negative EPO. It's basically where you have a ridge over the state of Alaska. I've said Alaska about 1,000,000 times over the last 1 minute, but we'll probably say it another 1,000,000 times too. But lower pressure over the eastern U.S. And let's go on and just keep this going a little bit more. And we take it all the way out to about January 1. So at this point, it's about 9 to 10 days out. Huge ridge building all the way up into Western Canada and Alaska. You're starting to see pieces of energy. I know this doesn't look like much, but here's a piece of energy about to shoot down to the southern sections of the U.S. with an active southern jet getting going. This is where all our energy is going. So you stop it right here. So what we're going to do here is try to explain this in a way where you guys, the audience, understands it. I say that a lot in my videos. It's very important to me. So we're going to draw on this map. If you've got questions, please put them in the comments, and I will try to get to them and answer them the best way that I can. But never be afraid to ask questions, and I love to answer them. I mean, that's why I do what I do with the weather. I love talking weather with people. So here we go. So I'm going to draw on this, and if you notice, you got this dip right here. Then it comes up like this, and we got this ridge in the warmer colors, and the reds, the oranges that you see on your screen, and it builds like that, builds all the way up into Alaska, then it kind of comes down like this and dips down pretty aggressively, actually. This is our dip in the jet stream, and this actually digs down all the way into here, and what happens is you got pieces of energy that's sort of rounding every side of this trough, if you will. As this jet digs down, you got pieces of energy that sort of digs down with it, whether it's on the backside somewhere over here, kind of at the base of it down here, or way over here, you got pieces of energy. Now, at the same time, you have a pretty active southern jet, so you got pieces of energy coming down here too. So you got energy over here, energy down here. Well, they meet somewhere right here. Now, saying all that, and I mean even up here in the Northeast too, saying all that, you have kind of a feed of cold air, kind of a cross-polar flow, if you will, and it's not a ton like an Arctic air mass. You don't really need that for a lot of areas of the country as we're starting to get into January. But if you notice, this ridge builds all the way up into here. It sort of splits the cold air up here in the Arctic, kind of comes down here, and then it comes down here. And as it does, it feeds these pieces of energy with colder air. So therefore, you have a cold air feed. It's not some overly impressive cold air feed, but it's there because the ridge builds down here, kind of splits the cold air and forces it to kind of come down here. Now, you're not going to see it much in this region. I know there's a lot of arrows going on right now, guys. I do apologize. I get a little crazy with the arrows, but you got this cold air kind of coming down here and feeding this somewhat active, aggressive looking storm track that's going to be there most likely. You're going to have a lot of pieces of energy. They could be weaker pieces of energy. You could have two kind of weaker to kind of mid-grade pieces of energy that kind of phase together to create a bigger storm. There's a lot of energy flying around. We're actually going to show you that here in a second, but that's what's going on. And, you know, you get this off your screen and we kind of keep this going here, and the pattern stays like that, guys. In fact, you see these blues down here, the lower pressure, that indicates a storminess down here for the southern sections of the country. So with this ridge building in like this, and I mean, you even start to go past 10 days. You get into a few days into 2024, into January, and I mean, you start to see more blues right here. So this ridge kind of buckling to the north, I mean, is really even creating a better cold air feed. You see it buckling like that. I mean, look at that cold air feed going down to this active storm track that you're seeing down here. Okay, so you like to see the ridge going all the way up into Alaska, and that's what's going on here. And honestly, it starts to look better and better once you even get past 10 days. In fact, it does. It looks a good bit better. Let's get all this off your screen here. We keep this going, and it just continues to look like that. So I'm excited about this pattern. I really am. And, you know, you look at the GFS ensemble too, guys. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, guys. I mean, and we won't spend as much time on this one just because we just spent a ton of time on the European ensemble. But, I mean, the same thing, guys. One big storm system moves in after Christmas, and then the blues start to show up. And look at the reds and the oranges as it begins to nudge up to Alaska. Okay, and then we start to get a week out, and then we start to get about 10 days out. And you see the storminess over the eastern U.S., and you see this really big ridge that builds all the way past Alaska, all the way up into the Arctic, splits the cold air, you start to get a little bit of a feed of cold air. Okay, and you keep this going, and then that's when the active storm track. I'm really liking something around New Year's or just after, guys, as pieces of energy really start to fly. And I mean, just like on the European ensemble, it introduces a piece of the polar vortex right here. And guys, I'm telling you, this is funneling in some cold air into this, with pieces of energy sort of just flying in. I know those are ugly arrows, but we're just moving quick now at this point. So I'm liking this. I really am. So we go on to get this back off your screen and we keep going. So this is the energy I'm talking about. You see the vibrant colors, the yellows, the oranges, the reds. This is our main storm system affecting the middle of the country, Christmas Day and after. And there it is, spinning around right into here. This introduces that trough over the east. And then look, as more pieces of energy sort of fly around, you got this energy, this bigger energy, this flies in, and then here comes another one. And the reason they're kind of rotating like this, you see how it's kind of like a swirl. They're kind of going like this, and then like that, and then like that. That is our trough. They're rotating around a digging trough in place right in here. That's the energy rotating around the trough of low pressure. Okay, let's get this back off your screen here and keep this going. And you start to get about a week from today, and it's really liking something around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Look at that. It doesn't phase quick enough, but this moves on out. And then more energy just continues to fly down. The pattern continues to get colder and colder, and you start to get more and more energy just flying in. So what does this look like as far as temperatures? Well, you start off the evening of the 27th. Below average temperatures already starting to settle in to the southern tier of the country. But as we start to get into like the 28th and 29th, look as below average temperatures begin to take over. This is the European ensemble from overnight. The middle of the country, the southern section of the country, we start to get to New Year, starts to get to, in this green area, that starts to get to 10 to 15 degrees below average. And then this just remains through the New Year. After the New Year, below average temperatures just settle in for the long run. So, man, if you're a winter weather fan, I know you got your guard up, got your walls up, but you really like what you're seeing here. And if you look at the run of the European model, remember what I'm about to show you. Remember, guys, it's not a forecast, but right at the end of it, it's going to excite a lot of people. But here comes this trough that sets up. With this trough, you're already going to have energy embedded. So you're going to have light snow, possible, some northwest snow possible across the Great Lakes region, and then the Appalachian Mountains with the northwest flow event. So we're going to have some lake effect snow ongoing as we get into after Christmas. And basically, I would say all of next week, you're going to have opportunities for lake effect snow across all the Great Lakes. And then you see that 540 line, you see it here, that's cold air digging down, and look at the snow starting to show up in the south central U.S. And look at this storm system with cold air involved starting to show up around New Year's Eve. And then this is New Year's Day. It wants to show a snowstorm across the mid-south, areas of the upper deep south. And then this is the last frame of the European, which is 10 days out. We all know that's going to change, right? Shows a big-time winter storm moving into the Carolinas, North Georgia, and already affecting areas of Tennessee and starting to move into Virginia. So we're going to start to see this more and more. It's going to start to get shared on social media. That's why I jump on the videos and just talk about it. I don't try to post it on social media. But we're going to start to see more of this. And if you look at the GFS, the GFS doesn't show some huge storm system, but there it is. The GFS likes the idea of more vigorous energy associated with this trough after Christmas. For example, shows some aggressive clipper energy moving through the Ohio Valley, the Midwest region as we get into a couple days after Christmas. Sort of next Tuesday, Wednesday through next weekend, shows some snowy weather as we kind of round off the last several days of 2023. And I mean, look at the northwest flow events showing up for the 29th, the 30th. And then we start to see the cold air settle in, and look at this, okay? You see this little energy? I mean, this is only 5-6 days away, cold air bogging down on this energy. And for the morning of the 30th, it has some snow showing up for Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. And even a quick, it's a pretty minor to moderate event. I'd say more so minor, but starting to get to the afternoon of the 30th, shows a snow event for the mountains of North Carolina and just the southern Appalachian Mountains. And then it tries to really dive some energy down about 8 to 9 days from now. Low pressure develops, but it's late phasing. This is close to a big winter storm for the mid-Atlantic. But you still have enough energy for some rain and a little bit of snow for the Carolinas and the southern Apps and areas of the mid-Atlantic. And that moves on off, turns into a big winter storm. And remember, I'm not talking in absolutes here, just showing you all the energy. And look how the cold air really dives down. And man, that is some big cold air diving all the way down to the Gulf Coast with energy still flying around, guys. So very interesting times coming up. And if you look at the European ensembles through 300 hours out, which takes us through the morning of the 4th, not a huge signal, but I mean, you're starting to see a signal in the deep south, in the mid-south. Even North Carolina points north for some snow. And then we look at the GFS ensemble through about 300 hours out, and solid signal for the mountainous regions. But you're starting to see a little bit of a signal. I wouldn't even call it a signal, just some light signals. It's just indicating the energy flying around with the cold air even further south now. So this is getting very interesting. And if you look through the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, below average temperatures starting to really take over a lot of the southeast, and then even starting to ooze into the south central and even into the mid-Atlantic now. I think we have interesting times ahead, so buckle up. I have you another update tonight, and we'll keep you guys covered. God bless.